Hello, everyone. I'm Dave, and you are just a wonderful listener of this podcast. Well, you know what? I didn't have to tell you who you are because, well, you know who you are. This is it, guys. This is it. I've gotten to my final recording of 80s Reboot Overdrive. So I'm, as I've alluded to on the previous episodes, this is going to be the end of my run managing 80s Reboot Overdrive. So it's a little interesting because this is actually our posting schedule is going to have the episode with Scott, Rose, and I doing our wrap up, and we've already recorded that. So the episode that you're going to hear last on the on this network, with us at least, that was recorded previously. We did that maybe 2 weeks ago or something like that. So this is, and the idea was always to post that one last with the three of us, because I think the show has really become a lot better with the three of us. And so it seems fitting that be the last thing on 80s Reboot Overdrive for us, at least. I don't know if there's going to be, Rob says there's going to be more for 80s Reboot Overdrive in the future, and I don't know how long that's going to take. And I know that I've often come across podcast feeds on iTunes that have been neglected for a long time. So I don't know if that's what's going to come of this or not. Scott, Rose, and I do a very decent job of pimping out our new network, Bonsai Retro Club, on the final episode. And since I've already taken part of that conversation, I know that's a lot of what we discuss. So I'm going to try to limit myself from doing that on this episode, because you're going to hear that on the final episode. And, I wanted to, end this right. And the other thing that I've wrestled with is I didn't want to get into the minutia of the archives of 80s Reboot Overdrive. And I was debating on going back, counting how many episodes that I participated in on this feed, and I just didn't think that was going to be something that would be that interesting, and not that it's not interesting in the fact that it's just been a lot of work, fun work that I had been involved in creating this thing. But at the same time, I don't want to bore you with numbers to say that we've had over 200 odd episodes posted, and of those I was on 180 something or whatever. I don't even know what those numbers look like, and I don't think that you're going to retain that. So there's really no reason to do the all that little research for something that is just going to be a blip on your radar. I'm not saying that you're not interested. I'm just saying that when I'm listening to podcasts, what I get out of it is the story and not all the stats and figures that some podcasts do. I know that if people are doing like a movie podcast, they'll give you things like, the box office draw and the budget and things along those lines. And my question on that is, when we're listening to those podcasts, do we really retain that information after we listen to that show? And I would argue the fact that you don't. I think that we get out of podcasts the personal stories, the personal journeys, the fun interaction between hosts. And I think that's what gets remembered on podcasts. So that's why over the evolution of 80s Reboot Overdrive, I have really minimized preparation. And I hope it's not to the detriment of you, the listener, but I like to approach a topic with what personal experience do I have to share about it. And so that differs a lot from the way I first started this whole thing. And so I just want you guys to know that and realize, as you may have already guessed, that I don't do a lot of research when I'm getting going with these things now. And I hope that it's still enjoyable. But that's the reason, and I think that if somebody gets into the get in the habit of doing a lot of the facts and figures type of thing, I think that, that's their format. But to me, it also feels a little bit like they're just filling time on a podcast. I'd much rather just jump right into a conversation. And I know that there's other podcasts out there that are similar, where they just jump right into the conversation, and that's what I want to be more like. So, what are we doing? We're doing 1989 Saturday morning cartoons. So these are the cartoons that would have been on in the year 1989. So the first thing that I like to do at the beginning of each of these shows is play a little thing called the bumper, and we're going to insert that here.
Sword of omens, give me sight beyond sight.
Greetings, Starfighter. You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada. Get ready. Prepare for blast-off.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88. Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Remember, no matter where you go, there you are.
This is 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast.
We were dancing just like Swayze when Jennifer Grey had a nose. Oh, how I miss the 80s, but I'm too young to really know. Too young to know.
Oh my god. That is like so dated.
All right, so that is our bumper, and as I said, we are jumping right into our 1989 Saturday morning cartoons. And amongst that, I am going to be just talking about stuff like I have been doing. So let's jump right in and see what was on. We're starting first thing in the morning on Saturday mornings, and as I have done in the past, I'm consulting in the 80s.com/Saturdays webpage, and they've done a very great job of putting in the time slots as far as what was going on ABC, CBS, and NBC. So we're starting at 8 o'clock. And let's see, spring had ABC had Flintstone Kids, and that would have went to New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. CBS would have had Adventures of Raggedy Ann and Andy, and then after that on CBS would have been Superman. On NBC we had Kissy Fur, and then that would have went to Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears. In the fall of 1989, ABC had Pup Named Scooby-Doo, and then that would have went to the Disney's Gummy Bears, Winnie the Pooh. So that's very interesting how Gummy Bears was kind of on two different channels. Yeah, crazy. Still in the fall, CBS, Dink the Little Dinosaur, and that would have followed by Jim Henson's Muppet Babies. And NBC in the fall had Alf Tales, and that would have went to Camp Candy. So that would have definitely gotten us through 8 to 9. Let's see if there's anything. You know what? We should probably stop there and play this.
The bee bites, the bark of the tree bites, the quietness of darkness, the stories told by firelight, the long nights, the food fights, a summer made of memories at Camp Candy. The moonlight, the sunshine, the rainy days and wet nights.
So that was Camp Candy, and as I alluded to in the previous, I want to say probably 2 episodes of this, a lot of these I wasn't watching. At this time, I'm 18 years old, and personal life, I actually, in the summer of 1989, right after graduating high school, I jumped right into, it's 12 days after graduation, I jumped right into boot camp for the United States Navy. So I was on my way to San Diego, where I would start that adventure. So prepping for the Navy, and during my senior year of high school, I don't think I really invested a lot of time in Saturday morning cartoons, to be honest. I had other things going on, other interests. There are some interesting shows that are on this list, so I'm looking forward to playing those intros for you, because I'm trying to pick out the ones that I have not played yet. And I see 1, 2, 3 more of them that I have not. One of them that I might throw in there just for the fun of it, because I'm curious what the cartoon sounded like. So I don't have a lot to add on Camp Candy. I know, obviously, John Candy vehicle, where much like in the 80s, they had a actor or a property that was doing really well, and that being the actor that is John Candy. He was doing some really great stuff with Volunteers, Uncle Buck, and those stupid dumb comedy humor things that he was doing. And I'm thinking that they decided to make that into a cartoon, as they did in the 80s, to exploit that property, to keep going with it. So if that was something that was your jam, then I hope you enjoyed that intro. For me, I wasn't watching. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed him as an actor. I enjoyed his movies. Planes, Trains, Automobiles, another funny one. But as far as what I have to throw about the actual cartoon of Camp Candy, I can't recall even seeing a single episode of that cartoon. So talk amongst yourselves, fill in the gaps that I'm definitely leaving wide open. And you say, you tell me what you're, you're not going to tell me, are you? You're not going to shoot me an email and tell me if Camp Candy was awesome or not, or a tweet, because I've asked you to do that, and nobody is. The feedback I've gotten, as I said before, was from Charlie Esser, and I read that one, but this is my final foray. So even if you do tweet to me and you do email me about this episode and what a wonderful cartoon Camp Candy would have been, I'm not going to be reading it out loud. At least not on 80s Reboot Overdrive. I don't know if I'm going to really reference a lot of my stuff that I'm wrapping up with here on the new thing. So since that's a topic that I'm not going to really spend a lot of time on, the new thing, that's really where I'm going to end then with the Camp Candy thing. So you can tweet at me or email me if you want. I'll respond definitely. If you tweet, I'll retweet and like it or whatever, provided it's nothing derogatory towards anybody. And we'll all get along. We'll all, and we'll reminisce about Camp Candy if that's your thing. So what I was thinking around, a talking point here is that for 80s Reboot Overdrive and this journey of revisiting the 80s as a thing now for almost 3 years, if there was a theme song for what the podcast would represent, there's a song, it's a country song, that is by Mark Wills, and I don't have permission to play it, so I'm not going to play it, but I'm going to read the lyrics. So it's going to sound weird, me not singing these lyrics, or no one singing these lyrics, but I think that if you're not in a country, you wouldn't have given this song the time, even though I would have talked about it on one of our previous episodes. So it's 19-something, and it's by Mark Wills. And the lyrics go like this. Saw Star Wars at least 8 times, had the Pac-Man pattern memorized, and I've seen the stuff they put inside Stretch Armstrong. I was Roger Staubach in my backyard, had a shoebox full of baseball cards, and a couple of Evel Knievel scars on my right arm. I was a kid when Elvis died, and my mama cried. It was 1970-something, in the world that I grew up in. Farrah Fawcett hairdo days, bell-bottoms and 8-track tapes. Looking back now, I can see me. Oh man, did I look cheesy. But I wouldn't trade those days for nothing. Oh, it was 1970-something. It was the dawning of a new decade. We got our first microwave. Dad broke down and finally shaved them old sideburns off. I took the stickers off my Rubik's Cube, watched MTV all afternoon. My first love was Daisy Duke and them cut-off jeans. Space shuttle fell out of the sky, and the whole world cried. It was 1980-something, in the world that I grew up in. Skating rinks and blank Trans Ams, big hair and parachute pants. And looking back now, I can see me. Oh man, did I look cheesy. I wouldn't trade those days for nothing. Oh, it was 1980-something. Now I've got a mortgage and an SUV, but all this responsibility makes me wish, sometimes, it was 1980-something, in the world that I grew up in. Skating rinks and black Trans Ams, big hair and parachute pants. And looking back now, I can see me. Oh man, did I look cheesy. I wouldn't trade those days for nothing. Oh, it was 1980-something. 1970-something. Oh, it was 19-something. I gotta tell you guys, I love that song. I love everything in that song, and it encapsulates this podcast in so many ways as far as the way remembering the 1980s does. It's a simpler day, and there's so many things that are in this song. Rubik's Cubes, Trans Am, skating rinks, parachute pants, space shuttle, Daisy Duke. There's so much of my life in a song, and that's what this represents. And this is what 80s Reboot Overdrive, the journey has been for me. And that encapsulates into this song. So Mark Wills just nailed it for me. If there was ever like an anthem for this podcast, I feel like that's it. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you. Like I said, I don't have permission to play the song, and I'm hoping reading the lyrics doesn't get me into any kind of copyright infringement. I don't think it does, because I think if I had a podcast reading poetry, I could probably get away with it. But I gave credit to the artist, and that was Mark Wills. I highly, highly, highly encourage you, if you're an 80s fan or 70s fan, to get on YouTube and watch the video, because there's a lot of video imagery that is in this song that is depicted in that video. So it was just well done. And if you're just so adamant against country, then, well, you know what? Country music, shame on you. That's all I got to say. Give it a chance, is what I'm saying. I'm not going to ask you to convert to dueling banjos and songs where, you know, somebody dies or somebody's leaving somebody on every song, which is pretty much a lot of country songs. By the way, side note, you know that's a country song if you can put in a yeehaw, whether it be a slow yeehaw or a fast yeehaw. If it sounds okay while listening to that song, then you're probably listening to a country song. But anyway, like I said, go back and listen to that Mark Wills song if you're a big 80s fan, because it is just wonderful. And actually 70s fan too, because there's a lot of good 70s stuff in there. All right, so we're going to go back to our list of 1989 Saturday morning cartoons, right? We're talking 9 o'clock now. We're looking at spring of 1989. ABC had actually from 8:30 to 9:30, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which I already mentioned, was on. And then that would have been followed by Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters. And that looks like that would have been, 8:30, 9. That would have been 9:30 is when Slimer came on. CBS at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock would have been Jim Henson's Muppet Babies. NBC, 9 o'clock to 10 would have been Smurfs on, I said NBC, didn't I? I don't remember if I said that or not. So fall of 1989, 8:30 to 9:30 still would have been Disney's Gummy Bears, Winnie the Pooh. And then 8:30 to 9:30 still on CBS would have been Jim Henson's Muppet Babies. And then NBC at 9 o'clock would have been Captain N, the Game Master. What I neglected to mention that on the fall of 1989, following Jim Henson's Muppet Babies on CBS, was Pee-wee's Playhouse. And then NBC followed up Captain M with Karate Kid. So we're going to stop there. And you know what? There's two in there I want to play. Let's do that. Let's play two in a row.
Welcome to Videoland.
Mega High!
Wake up, Kid Icarus!
Welcome to Castlevania.
It's Congo Land!
My brain will get you, little princess.
Princess, the palace is under siege!
Behold, the ultimate warp zone.
Kevin, I thought I told you to clean up your room. Whoa!
Captain N, the Game Master.
So that was Captain N, the Game Master. I said I'm going to play two. So real quick, once again, another cartoon that I did not watch was Captain N, but I think there's a lot of you that were out there that did watch that, and that's why I played it, because you know what, this is about you too. But obviously we had that play on a theme like kid video, but this time we're talking about video games versus music videos. So I see how that could have played well with those of you that were really into the Nintendo game system and wanting to have your cartoon to go with that. So the next one I wanted to play was this one. Alright, so that was the Karate Kid cartoon. I love the movie. I was a fan of it, so that's why I played that. Didn't watch the cartoon, but I dig the concept of it. I like the idea of them trying to put that into a cartoon format. I think there's a lot of movies that were inappropriate that tried to go into cartoons. I'm thinking RoboCop and Rambo, because those aren't really kid-friendly topics, but Karate Kid was. So I think that was a good idea, but I don't know how well it was executed because I don't think it stuck around that long. Based on what I saw in the intro, it looked like there was a lot of mysticism with around the karate type of thing. So I feel that that probably played a lot into the cartoon. And I think that's important. I think that if you don't have some sort of fantastic element, then why make a cartoon? You need to have something that is that you can't do in real world in a cartoon format, because that vehicle or that medium gives you the ability to do that kind of thing. And if you're going to stick to some sort of topic that can be encapsulated on film with real life actors, then just go that route. You don't need a cartoon. But yeah, that's just me kind of rambling a little bit more around the basis of what I think Karate Kid was looking to convey. And I hope they pulled it off, and I hope that a couple of you enjoyed that. So this being the my final foray with 80s Reboot Overdrive, I wanted to just say thank you. I wanted to say thank you to all of you that have been listening, and those of you that have chosen to interact with myself, Scott, Rose. One in specific, there's a listener that really means a lot to me, and there's several of you, because I do get those interactions on Twitter with some of you that do check out our stuff, and you do choose to give a comment or two, or some of the dealings in Facebook with the different groups. But this particular person I'm thinking of was somebody that not only participates with interaction, but also participated with a donation. Now I'm thinking of my my good friend, and I hope it's fair to call him that, Frederick. And what had happened was we had that podcast marathon that he donated to the Kickstarter, and one of the rewards. I forgot that word. Wow, I can't believe that. One of the rewards that you donate is that you get to, based on the reward that you choose in Kickstarter, you get to be on the podcast you're choosing on Southgate Media Group, and at least those of us that participated in saying that you'd get a spot on our show. So the amount to donate was $25, and Frederick donated $25 towards the podcast marathon. But when it ended, the Kickstarter ended, we reached our goal, and I got the contact information for Frederick from Rob. I reached out immediately and thanked him profusely for donating. And it turns out that he had said something around the fact that he'd been donating to Southgate Media's Patreon for some time. And I thought, that's really cool, that he's supporting, independent publishers to create things. And, that's really awesome that, because most people don't go that extra step and donate. And he opted to, and he was doing that on a regular basis, it sounded like. And very simply, he just responded back saying, well, I do that because you guys give me stuff. You give me content. And it was just fun for somebody to acknowledge that out loud. And so then when we invited him to be on the show, he says, no, I don't really, I don't think that, I need to be on the show. I'm not sure if I'm right for podcasting. For some reason, he just felt that it like it would hurt the chemistry between Scott Rose and I if we had him on. And I couldn't disagree with him more. I appreciate Frederick in so many levels, but the life lesson I have for Frederick and the life lesson I have for the rest of you is that this is fun. This is not challenging at all. It's your voice. And any one of you can do this. And if this is something that you think that you would want to do, or something that you're just mildly curious about, I encourage you to give it a shot. It's not difficult by any means. It's just being comfortable talking. And it's as simple as that, folks. As you move through your podcasting career, if you do, if you want to call it a career, but your podcasting life, you get a little bit less stressed about your nuances when you talk. I know that I do a lot. I know that I do and ah a lot. And I think I was much worse when I first started this whole thing. And when I first learned to edit myself, to edit my podcasts, I got really hung up on those speech anomalies that I do. And I've learned to live with that because that is just me. And I'm hoping that by not cleaning that stuff up when I'm editing, it's not a nuisance for you, the listener, but it just helps to convey the fact that I'm as real as I try to, as I can be. So back to my words of encouragement. If you have any passing interest, anything that you want to get going as a podcast, if you're looking to do a retro topic, reach out to me, man. Reach out. I'm not going to tell you that's a dumb idea that you may have. But if you want to do a retro topic, please go to bonsairetroclub.com and look at the section for contact. Find my contact information on that and shoot me an email and say, hey, I have an idea for a podcast. If anything, give me the idea for the podcast and I'll give you credit for it. But if you have a retro topic, you want to cover an old TV show, an old movie, you just want to be on one just to see how it goes, reach out to me. If you have any other kind of passing interest to pretty much any topic in the world, Rob Southgate will listen and he will give you the ability to put something out there. So between our two networks, if you have even just a thought process or an idea, or you just want to try it, if you just want to guest on a show, there are plenty of opportunities and you're not going to be turned away. So that's me telling you, and just as my thank you once again, I didn't mean to get on a soapbox there, but just a thank you once again to great people that are like Frederick that do contribute, either through their input or through some sort of monetary amount. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank, those of you that do interact and add something. You do add something to it. Even those of you that all you do is put a review on iTunes, that's still some level of interaction. All of that is very important because it gives us, those of us that are creating, the validation that you're out there, you're listening, and you appreciate what we're doing. So there you go. I didn't even believe that I was going to be on that topic as long as I was going to be. But let's get back to 1989 Saturday morning cartoons. So where we wrapped up at what time? What time was it? You know what? I can't find my cursor, my mouse. Here we go. It's right there in the middle. That's 10 o'clock. That's the 10 o'clock hour. So 10 o'clock, ABC in the spring still had Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters on until 10:30. And CBS would have had Pee-wee's Playhouse from 10 to 10:30. NBC would have had Alvin and the Chipmunks from 10 to 10:30. You were going to wrap this all up right here. So on ABC at 10:30, Small Wonder, and then 11 o'clock would have been Bugs Bunny and Tweety. CBS in the spring at 10:30 would have had Garfield and Friends. That would have went to Hey Vern, It's Ernest, and then that would have went to Teen Wolf. NBC 10 to 10:30 would have been Alvin and the Chipmunks. 10:30 to 11:30 Alf. 11:30 to 12 Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. So now we are in the fall of 1989. And 9:30 to 10:30 on ABC would have been Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters. 10:30 would have given us Candlepin Bowling for an hour, and then that would have given us to sports. CBS in fall of 1989, 10 o'clock had California Raisins. 10:30 to 11:30 had Garfield and Friends, and then at 11:30 to 12 we would have had Mary Tyler Moore. That wasn't a cartoon, was it? That had to be the TV show. Why would somebody put an old sitcom in right at the end of Saturday morning cartoons? Huh. All right. Fall of 1989, wrapping this up. NBC 10 to 11 gave you Smurfs. 11 o'clock, Alvin and the Chipmunks. And then 11:30 to 12, Saved by the Bell. So through all of that, the one that jumped out at me will be this one.
Yeah, baby with the hippest dried fruit around. Chunky but funky, we can lay it down. Cool is the rule, cause the music's so fine. You might have heard about us through the old grapevine. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We're not prunes or jades. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're no ordinary grades. We're the purple, we're the blue. And don't forget about the sweet golden stew. The
that was California Raisins cartoon. That's going to be the last cartoon intro I'm going to play on this series. So we're ending with California Raisins. Once again, didn't watch it. But I loved that ad campaign that was going on for the great folks that came up with the California Raisins claymation. That we got just tons of stuff, merchandise and advertisements throughout the late 80s. Just loved the whole situation with just the Motown music and just total claymation. Everything that we got out of that, I liked. Even those little figurines that everybody collected. So as far as cartoon, yeah, like I said, I was too old at that point. Wasn't watching. I hope it was something cool for the rest of you. I don't know if it really lasted that long. As most things, they were a passing fad. And I guess the question to really ask yourself is, did it work? Did we eat more raisins during the late 80s because of those commercials? Or were those, all that marketing and merchandise that they were putting out, was it a way to augment the raisin industry? I'm interested to know. Did if you're looking for a snack, did you go, well, I remember that commercial that was on and now I really want raisins? Or was it just like, oh, I just like the music, or I like the claymation, and yeah, that's cool? And did any of those ads work? Did Where's the Beef? Did you run out to Wendy's because of Where's the Beef commercial? Or is it just because of it gave you that brand name recognition, so that if you're at the store or you're hungry, do you think of them because of the commercial and they're stuck in your brain? So that was probably it more than anything. If anything, they wanted you to be in the store, and probably if you're looking at tasty treats, to think, yeah, I'm going to get me some of those California raisins. So hopefully that worked out for them. But I do like me some raisins. I like grapes a little bit more, but raisins definitely have a longer shelf life, which is always a good thing. So my final bit now for 80s Reboot Overdrive. This being the final recording by yours truly. I don't have a thought process here, guys. I don't have an ending words of wisdom. The last thing that we were talking about obviously was telling you that you have a voice, and it would be great to hear it, be it in a podcast or written form, or whatever your creativity gives you. I want you to do that. I want you to find your creative voice and put something out there. If you don't do it now, act as if there's no tomorrow. You never know what this big wacky world is going to present us with. We have countries doing missile testing, nuclear missile testing. We've got just massive hurricanes destroying parts of the United States and Cuba. We've had floods that have hurt a lot of people in Texas. There's many people in my personal life that are being struck by diseases, mainly like cancer. You never know, people. You never know what's going to happen next. You don't know how long you have left. And if you have the desire to do something creative, do it. Just put it out there, get started on it. That's this journey's been for me, where I've mentioned to you that I've wanted to be a writer. And in some small form, I've gotten to participate in the book that Rob Southgate is curating called Pod Life. So I submitted a chapter of that, so I get to say, hey, I've contributed a chapter, and I've had situations where something of mine gets published. In the late 80s, that was in Starlog magazine. There was 2 letters to the editor, that got published, and then there was an IT joke that CDW put together. Different stories of people in the IT industry, and I think it's called Dear Fred. It was a commercial that they had going on about Fred, the IT guy, that was humorous. And then they asked for submissions via their website, and mine was one of the top ones that got chosen and published. So what I actually won was a all-expense paid trip to Las Vegas, got a trophy, but I didn't get a chance to go, and that's just a whole nother story. Got nothing to do with what we're doing here. But, when I have those brief moments where I have something like that happen, then something inside of me kind of tinges to say, maybe I could have had a life or a profession, a career as a writer. Maybe that could have been my thing. And I didn't take that road. And my advice to myself, along with the rest of you, is that we've got to take the road that we want. We have to find a way to make it work. Me going off and starting my own network with Scott Rose is that. It's that road where it's the next step. It's the next thing with the journey here in podcasting. Nothing wrong with what's going on with Southgate at all. It's just that I want to have I want to have a sense of ownership. And what happens with 80s Reboot Overdrive, where I do have a sense of ownership, where I've put together this show, I've edited this show, and I've helping promote this show. So in a lot of ways, I'm doing a lot of legwork for this show. And, at the end of the day, it's owned by Southgate Media Group, not by Dave, Rose, or Scott. And that's the big difference. My next journey here is to know what it's like to put something out there that is completely owned in part by me. And I can do with it whatever the hell I want to. So that's a lot of what's going on here. This is not any slam whatsoever against 80s Reboot Overdrive or Southgate Media. It's been actually a great journey, but in my mind, it's been my podcast training wheels. It's time to kick those training wheels off. It's time to take it to the next level. And Bonsai Retro Club is that next level, guys. I hope you join us there. If you don't, I continue to appreciate and love you for the great listener that you are. And I hope the very best for you. And as I've said so many times in the past, thank you for reliving the 80s with me. With that, goodbye. We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.